The Taliban are on the march and gaining territory at an astonishing rate. From this base alone, the Taliban say they seized about 900 guns, 30 Humvees and 20 army pickup trucks. Many of the fighters we saw were carrying new weapons seized during the taking of the base.
So now that the world has a new boogeyman, an invisible boogeyman that can hide inside of anyone, including you, and you need a special test to find out if you have it, and then you'll need all this paperwork to travel around so that they can keep track of this boogeyman that hides inside of all of us. And they're successfully turning the world into a giant airport with special passes to go to special places. Now that all of that's worked out, now that everyone's bought into the invisible boogeyman, they can get rid of the brown boogeyman they were using in the last couple of decades. That boogeyman being, amongst others, Afghanistan. The regime that we were told kinda, sorta aided the so-called perpetrators of 9/11. You remember the Taliban, right? They had maybe something to do with the guy who orchestrated a complete takeover of US airspace using like a handful of dudes who had box cutters. And so they started to put the pieces to this grand scheme together when they found a passport belonging to one of the box cutters a few blocks away from where the box cutter, the plane he was in, and a lot of the building the plane was in were incinerated and vaporized. But it's all good though, the passport made it out. And they somehow figured out that the passport belongs to the hijacker and not just some other random passenger. At least that's the version of the story I remember. And all of this is true because science. No wait, back then it was patriotism. America! They got a lot of the public to go out there and sing songs about terrorists and terror lists. And now a lot of the people who are singing those songs are part of a new terror list, only this time it's domestic. I guess the silver lining in all of this is that maybe in 20 years from now, these settled science bitches will be getting marched off to the gulags by some even crazier motherfuckers. But I'm getting lost in these propaganda rabbit holes. I mean, this shit never ends. I gotta stick to the subject. The Taliban are back. It turns out that the US's strategy of giving them a bunch of weapons only made them stronger. Who knew? I'm shocked. Totally shocked. I mean, what happened to that elite guard the US Special Forces have been fluffing this whole time, huh?
Is the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan now inevitable?
No, it is not. Because you have the Afghan troops have 300,000 well equipped as any army in the world, and an air force against something like 75,000 Taliban. It is not inevitable.
They've been stroking them, giving them Viagra, got their stud ready to mount some bitches for years. They spent billions of tax dollars getting this thing ready to go. And then they were talking about how they made some real fucker people uppers out there, you know, elite they were called. Those guys were supposed to have the stamina to go all night. They turned out to be a 3-pump chump. Actually, no, they're worse. They're worse than a 3-pump chump. They're not even a full pump chump. They blew their load before the fucking even started. Jeffrey Epstein lasted longer in his cell than these jokers.
There's going to be no circumstance where you see people being lifted off the roof of a embassy of the United States from Afghanistan.
The forest fires eating up California right now move slower than this. What are Dirty Joe and Dirty Ho gonna do about this one, huh? They turned the border into a revolving door and lost America's longest war, and they pulled us off along with all the other nasty shit they've been up to in about 8 months. 8 fucking months. We're not even halfway done with this freak show. Fuck me sideways. We're in big trouble. So what's the next play here? Is the US gonna have to go back in there for another 20 years? Or are they just gonna play it hard and just say, fuck it. Tell the rest of the world, there's nothing to see here. Afghanistan's fine. Don't worry. Everything's fine. Don't look here. Look anywhere else. Nothing to see here. Go away. Go away. If you start talking about Afghanistan, you're a purveyor of misinformation. The US never lost in Afghanistan. There is no Afghanistan. You just got fact-checked. Fact check, fact check, fact check. Now shut up and go get a sex change. But maybe I'm underestimating these guys again. You know, maybe this is part of some smarter global strategy. Get the masses to throw shit at the clowns running the government, your dirty Joes. You trick a guy like me to come out here and shit on Joe, the most popular president of all time. And while all this noise is going on, they get away with this concentration of resources they've been doing the last couple of years. You know, maybe the U.S. doesn't need soldiers in hostile countries anymore. Thanks to the COOF, you can lock anyone up from anywhere, you know? If any of these rogue states start acting a fool, we'll just say, hey, you've got some spooky variant out there. It's called the fuck with your money variant. We're gonna have to fuck with your money to get rid of it. We're just gonna restrict all the movement out of that country and starve them out to save their lives or some other form of that argument. And it's gonna be for the good of the rest of the world, you know? So maybe we're past the need for soldiers, who knows? It'd be crazy if the Taliban used this as a launching pad and turned themselves into some real heavy hitters, you know? Use their reputation as the guys who chased off the heavyweights. You know, maybe get China and Russia to back them up more. And really set the stage for this new power axis out there. And we'll see how long it lasts if that ever happens, though. However your mainstreamers try to play this out, just remember, it's important to never buy into the narrative that this was a failed war. It was not, okay? These people did exactly what they wanted to. They got control of territory, opium, arms dealing, money laundering, trade routes. It's a breeding ground for more extremism that they can use to play out this sequel if they ever need to play that in the box office a couple of years from now. If folks don't believe whatever's on their screens, they just reach in and play this one whenever they have to, you know? And that's just on the surface. This is the victories that we can predict right now. There's probably going to be a hell of a lot more they're going to mine out of this thing. So, as far as I'm concerned, this is the most successful war of my lifetime. But that's not the version of the story we're going to get, though. The story we get may go a little something like this. Once upon a time, there was this kind of vague threat out there, and we pulled out all the stops to fight it. We got people to turn against one another to better our chances. We killed a lot more people than we saved, and we gave rise to way worse threats because the cures we used were way worse than the disease, and in the end, we surrendered all the same, realizing how pointless it was to fight nature and human nature combined. It's a good thing we learned our lessons, huh?